Okay, folks, good morning. Hopefully we can have a successful feed this morning. I tried to get on here last night about 8 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, and the internet decided that it wasn't going to work at that time. So, it didn't work anywhere. There must have been some kind of an outage. It was running slow or something like that. But we had a pretty successful day yesterday. We put the rest of all these tanks together, tanks and armored vehicles. And then we went to the airbrush and primed them all black, as I like to do. So here they are in all their glory. See if we can move this over a little bit. Be able to see the screen a little better. Now here they are in all their glory. The whole stack of vehicles. And these are all the vehicles that I got off my trip to Canada. The 3 Shermans, the 3 Stewarts, this really does not need to be here. There we go. The M20 armored car. The M8 howitzer motor carriage, and the M8 armored car. They're all in plastic except these 3 vehicles that are in white metal. And another reason I don't like the white metal vehicles as much is when you go to paint them, I have these little crimpy things I got, which work pretty well. They're really lightweight, but they really struggle to hold up the weight of these white metal vehicles. They're rather heavy. So they're just easier to maneuver if you're just using regular plastic vehicles, but sometimes you gotta buy whatever's available there. They had them available in white metal, and they were a bit of a chore to put together. For those of you that watched the last couple of feeds, this was kind of a fun struggle at times. And they're gonna need another coat of paint. Because even though the airbrush session went pretty well, there were some spots that were missed because I had to handle them by hand. I decided not to use gloves, and this stuff came off real easy using a hand sanitizer. Found out that the gloves are more trouble than they're worth. I'm not really painting anything toxic, so not really worried about that. I'll put some of the surface primer paint here. Yeah, when you close this thing, it likes to splatter. And let's get the paper towel over on this side where it's supposed to be. brush we don't love so much. This one's pretty sorry shaped. A sorry shaped brush. And let's just touch this up before we start on the other stuff. Something I did not do. Is there's a bunch of little metal shavings here. That's better. When I was younger, I preferred the metal vehicles because of heft. But really, I can't think of any reason why they're better than the plastic ones. Does the turret have anything on it where we missed? Not much. The 50 calibers actually look like they're prone there pretty safely. Epoxy is weird. It goes from, looking like it's not going to work really well to really give you a solid purchase on the where you're going on the miniature, the model. So I am a fan of it. Even though it seems like you're making a hell of a mess, it's not really that big of a deal. You need something to hold this thing down. And it does stay rather flexible, a little bit longer than after it's set, so to speak. So it allows you to move the pieces around if you need to, which is kind of necessary with some of these things that are not the best. For these precise models are kind of, they got soft details in places and they don't go together great. I don't know why there's not an inexpensive version of some of these vehicles, but there isn't. You go and buy a model and they want almost $30 for them, and you still have to ship it to you. I just put off getting them. And if I needed it really bad, I would have gotten it, but I use the price of things as a pretty good moderator to keep me from buying a whole lot of stuff, If a lot of these vehicles were $4 or $5 a piece, yeah, I'd be gobbling them all up and I'd be buying more than I should. But when you're talking about $20 plus shipping, yeah, I'm not really in a hurry to buy that kind of stuff. Doesn't seem like a good value. I got in most of this stuff with the airbrush pretty well. And I'd have to say it's probably, yesterday was probably the most positive airbrush experience to date. And I'll tell you guys about it when people show up. Otherwise, I'll just end up having to repeat myself. Wish there was a way to eliminate that heart there on that Streamlabs thing, but if I click on this, it does something different. Nope. I don't like to build things in sections. I'd rather put everything together and try to paint around to get everywhere I need than do this wonderful job and then have to chip it up because I gotta glue it together. That's just the way I'd rather do things. Here it is. Here's the spot that it was holding on to. If I miss it, it's not a big deal. It's just a place for the paint to actually grab the miniature. It's going to have several coats of paint on it afterwards, and then it'll be sealed. So doesn't have to be exactly perfect, just somewhat perfect. Doesn't have to be perfect, I just have to be happy with it. Let me just take a look and make sure none of these Shermans have anywhere that I missed other than the part where they were grabbed here by a little clamp. really well. Like I said, it was probably my best airbrush experience ever. It worked great right off the bat. It cleaned up easy. Yeah, there's not much that needs to be done on these. I'm just looking for anything that's standing out here. As to be expected, this area underneath the tracks here, there's a little bit of the base color showing. And to be honest with you, it probably wouldn't even be noticeable because we're going to dust these things up and everything. But just for the sake of completeness, come together pretty well. Tried not to put too much down in certain places, but yet just enough. You guys are taking a while to get on here. You got a honey-do list to work on Sunday morning? Nope, two of you guys. All right, well, I'll start talking about. I don't know if they're some viewers or not, but I'll go ahead and talk about my airbrush experience yesterday because it was kind of unique. And I keep saying I'm going to do an airbrush video at some point, but I need to start making more positive things happen on the airbrush instead of negative things, or it's not going to be a very useful video. But I'm really happy with this Vallejo surface primer as a brush on. I always was with miniatures, and I learned that people used it for airbrushing as well. And I was having issues with it clogging. And you read, that's the problem with the internet, is there's a lot of really useful information, and there's a lot of things that send you into directions that are, I don't know that they're lies, but they create more problems than they solve. And I don't know whether it's people just being misinformed or people being fanboys of a certain brand and they don't want to see their problems. I don't know what the thing is, but you got to tread lightly with some of these modeling ideas because sometimes they cause you more trouble than they're worth. But I was pretty happy with this material, this medium. It works. It's really a strange material. It's acrylic, but it also has some polyurethane stuff in it that allows it really to, when you put it somewhere, it flows really well, almost like thinned down enamel. So in that respect, it's really good. I don't know that I've ever painted it and gotten an air bubble, which normally happens with acrylic paints. You go and you paint something and you've got this air bubble that's there that looks like it's all painted. A little while later pops, and then you've got this little bubble where it was that there's no paint on. I'm just using this. It's not that big, but you have to go back and touch it up. This stuff you don't have to touch anything up. It's pretty amazing. However, it gives the illusion that it's very thin, that it's very easy to scratch. But once you apply the next coat of paint on it, it adheres really, really well to it. It has no smell. It's a little tricky to get off your fingers. You can't just wash it off like regular acrylic, but the hand sanitizer stuff works great. It gets it right off. My hands were covered yesterday when I was airbrushing. But the problem I was having with airbrushing was clogging on me all the time. It was clogging on me all the time, so I was like, okay, let me go. Do I have to thin this stuff down? Because the problem is this reacts really strange with water. Almost kind of like the way Tamiya paint reacts with water. Tamiya paint doesn't thin really well with water. It thins better with rubbing alcohol or their own thinner. And so I was hesitant to do that. So I was sifting through message boards and people that had the same issues, and everybody had a different solution. And, I didn't have time really to try them all. But I finally found something that worked. And that is changing the size of the needle. My airbrush came standard with one needle, it's a 0.35. I can't ever remember what the name of my airbrush is. A Wada DP something or another. They have it at Hobby Lobby. I'm very happy with it. And it paints like the AK paint goes right out of the bottle. I don't have to thin it. Of course, it's very thin. And this stuff's pretty thin as well. But it's just kind of a thicker property. So I decided, well, I'm going to go ahead and throw $20 at the problem and see if it'll make it better. And $20 being a new nozzle and in the 0.5 and a 0.5 needle, and that solved the problem. It was like a totally new airbrush. It was like it worked better with the 0.5 than the 0.35 did with the AK paint, running this stuff. This stuff through the 0.5 worked better than the AK through the 0.35. So the needle's just too small. The 0.35 is just too small. It worked great, cleaned up fine, no problem. So, I've been airbrushing now for a little less than a year, and it's like the first positive airbrush experience I've had. Everything else has just always been like a struggle to clean up or to do this or the other. And I've used airbrushes in the past. I just think the 0.35 is just too small. The air pressure this and the air pressure that, and move this and move the, the 0.35 and this stuff doesn't work well together. So I'm going to leave the 0.5 in there, because unless I'm doing really intricate camouflage schemes, which is not what I usually do. Hey, this stew is good to go. I don't need to use that other. I don't need to use that other size. But man, it took a lot of scouring on a lot of message groups and a lot of different things, because sometimes you've got a question and you don't understand what the experience of the person asking it is. It could be, a total noob question by somebody who's new to painting. And so you have to kind of figure some of this stuff out yourself. But, somebody says, hey, I'm having trouble priming. You got any pointers? Yeah, go get a 0.5. Go get a bigger nozzle. So I'm curious to see how that 0.5 is going to react with the overall color, but I could airbrush this in an overall color just to get the desired effects, but I much prefer the cleanup ease of hand painting. But yeah, that was $20 really well invested. Because there's the problem with the airbrushes. If it's gonna, I've used it and I was rather successful at it, but it was really time inefficient. I did these things in no time. So, and I just need to get my airbrush station up and going. Okay, so while these are drying, and I went ahead and pulled these out yesterday. I thought I was I did start a feed, it just never started. There's two olive drabs that I use. One of them is the original olive drab that Vallejo used to make, which is called Brown Violet. It's 887, and it was replaced with a new 887 called U.S. Olive Drab. And this one's a little bit more green, and I use them both. They don't make this one anymore, the brown violet, and I've got, I don't know, maybe a third of this, a quarter of this left in there. So this is kind of like a holy grail. Got to hold on to this one. But this is the new olive drab green. I use them both. So I've used them both. And there's a slight difference in the color between them. Nothing huge. So we do have some primer on the white metal ones that's drying. So we're not going to start doing them. So let's go ahead and start with the Stewies, because they hardly needed any touch-up work. Let's get another one of these out here. Let's see how this one's doing. Now let's switch to a new one. F it, these are, I'm gonna do this set, might as well have a new one. Assuming you have more brushes of that size. This should work fine. And both basically the same size. All right, let's grab some of this right here. I'm not really sure why Vallejo decided to reformulate some of their stuff. But honestly, they make their color line drove me a little crazy. When they started getting into all these sets for Flames of War, where they'd say, hey, you know, the beginning of the Flames of War, like, hey, use this color, and this color. Then they had special Panzer Aces color, then Flames of War colors, and they're all like, you know, like, okay, which one do you expect me to use? Because I still have the original ones. And then AK does the same thing. They come up with, you know, German colors of 1944 or something like that. All right, so here's the colors I need to use. All right. And then they'll come up with another version of it. And it's like, what are you doing? You're just like, these are the colors to use, but in a couple of years we'll change our mind. And it's just a little overwhelming. So sometimes you just got to use what you're happy with and move on. Because if you look how many sets that AK and Vallejo have for like German tanks, It's crazy. It's crazy how many sets they have. And some are out of print. They don't make them anymore. You know, it's not clear. So we're just going to dry brush this color. We're trying to leave some of the black in the nooks and crannies on purpose. And then we'll go back over with a brown wash. And then we'll do this again with the same color. And that's the method that works, that's worked well for me. It's pretty foolproof, gives good results. It's not too slow, and I'm happy with how it is. And I can reproduce it consistently. And this bottom color of paint allows the wash to have something to adhere to. Okay. Always start with a running gear to get the amount of paint where you'd like it. It's easy to fix. You're going to end up dusting the shit out of that anyways. Yeah, it's the same stock number as the old one. They just ended up flat out replacing it. And the other thing is, it dries so quick. I'm pretty comfortable just grabbing it And I really don't get much paint on my hands. Just speeds the process up. I take long enough to paint these. I don't need to find ways that take even longer. And one thing I was going to do last night when I couldn't get online, it's like, oh, well, I'll just search for paint schemes for these Stewart tanks. You know, markings, not really paint schemes, markings. I couldn't do that. The internet was just, I don't know, I don't think something was going on because we didn't really have any storms or anything. Just wasn't, even the cell phone signal was weak, which is unusual. You know, it said you had 5G, but you didn't. Well, we'll see how my next airbrush experience after I had my epiphany. Not really an epiphany, but switching out the needle work. And I'm looking forward to it. Instead of not looking forward to it. Slow morning, folks. This Cullen hedgerow cutter. It looks weird. It looks like it doesn't belong there. Hey, Nordic. Did you go to sleep last night? I tried to get on at 8 o'clock, but the internet just wasn't working. Because I wanted to do this at 8 o'clock so that I could do the leave it washed and drying so we could do the next stage, but it just didn't work. I don't know if it's ever happened here before. But something was going on because the cell phone signal didn't work either. I was like, oh, I'll just surf for. I'll start downloading some pictures of some examples of Stewarts with markings on them, and that didn't work either. So something was going on. And we really didn't have the bad weather really for that to be the case. Okay, here's the 3 turrets to these little guys. Oh, let's not put any pressure on that hatch. I don't want to have to re-glue that. No point in making more work for yourself. No sleep yet? Gonna try chronotherapy to fix my bad sleep pattern. Chronotherapy. Time therapy? Weather knocked out the satellite dish here. Got about half a foot of snow. What's a lot of snow overnight? Is 6 inches a lot? Like if somebody says, hey, we're going to get snow, and you got some snow, what's typical? 2 inches? An inch? 3/4? I know it depends, but like what's a normal snowfall? If it's more than 4, it's a shitload. I mean, I have no idea what this is. I just got a dusting when I went up there, so I didn't have to do anything. I hear people, oh, I got a foot of snow. I mean, is that a lot? A foot everywhere? I don't know. You better get out and clean that sidewalk. For the government. Big brother's all over you. You're running the country into the ground by not cleaning your sidewalk, your portion of the sidewalk. Good reason to live on a house that has no sidewalk. F you, big brother. You go to sleep a few hours later each night, and you're right on time. Oh, okay. A few hours later. I don't want to wake up any later than 6 a.m. I did my own therapy, and it was like, I'm dreading Mondays. Why? Well, I have to get up earlier on a Monday for work. Well, why don't I just get up at the same time every day, regardless of whether or not I go to work? And then I don't dread those days to get up at work because it's just a normal wake-up time. So there it is, 5 a.m. for me. It's still kind of soft. What happened? Did it unbuckle here? Looks like it. A foot of snow is a lot. Anything over 3 inches is starting to get too much snow. Yeah, because I guess it's 3 inches everywhere. It's just like 3 inches of rain is a shitload of rain. Cryotherapy works, but it takes about a week to pull off. Easier than staying up 28 hours. Yeah. I'm just going to paint this whole machine gun and then we'll go in. Well, I know the barrel won't be OD, so there's no point in painting that. Come back and add the detail to those places. Come back and secure that lid. Let's just do that now. And then just leave it alone for a bit. Make sure I'm using them with a tiny little, yeah, there we go. Means odd hours, but it's best way to correct the problem. You still looking for employment? Because I'd end up being exhausted if I had to stay up all night and stuff like that. I've done that a couple times. I've stayed up all night and gone to work. That's a bad idea. Yesterday was a weird day. It felt like Sunday all day long. Thank goodness it wasn't. The Sunday dread, definitely my least favorite day of the week. The dread of, have you had enough fun this weekend? Probably could achieve the correction 3 or 4 days, but that's a tough ask. Correcting myself now for the best body needs the sleep change bad. Yeah, the 2 hour time change didn't mess me up too bad, but I was still waking up at my normal time, but I was able to go back to sleep. But I was on vacation. I mean, nothing really was asked of me. So I didn't have to do anything. We saw quite a bit of snow on vacation that had already fallen. And one thing that kind of struck me as is it looks fake. It looks fake when you're going around and you're seeing all these thousands and millions of pine trees that all have snow on them, and how it is melted in all places except in a couple little clumps, and it just doesn't look real. It looks like, okay, this is the same bullshit you see at, like, Disney or Universal when they're trying to spray something so it looks like, it's snowy and stuff. That looks fake, and then you end up like, okay, well, I guess it really does look like that. My daughter commented on that. It's like, Dad, all the time we thought it looked fake, and I guess it's kind of like that. It's just kind of weird, you know. You don't really expect. You don't expect it really to look that way. Okay, so the Stewies are done. Are these guys dryish? So I want to do the armored cars. The Shermans can wait. I've got lots of Shermans. Well, you'll be surprised to find that I did not get any snow yesterday. We got some rain, but not some snow. It famously snowed here in this area in this Christmas Eve of 1989. It was also the very first time we had ever traveled. I lived at home during that time. Not for much longer, but I lived at home. And that was the first time we had traveled for Christmas. So I got to miss it. But that was kind of the fluke that it snowed. It probably snowed an inch or something like that. But you'd have thought it was the end of the world. I've heard that when it snows in Atlanta, which Atlanta's significantly farther north than we are, 5, 6 hours, something like that, it'll shut the whole city down. I'm used to seeing snow, so you don't think much about it. Okay. Yeah, I could see that. You just get used to whatever it is that you're used to seeing. Which is kind of a shame. The adaptability of the human body. You could live somewhere beautiful, and you don't appreciate it as much as somebody who's visiting. That's just human nature. Well, I can't recommend these Raffam things. They're kind of sloppy. but it'll work. But all right, I'm gonna take a little break, go make some coffee. I haven't had any yet. I definitely feel myself, my energy level. Like I've been, I've seen winters where we had snow taller than the cars. Blizzard of 93, 94 really dumped feet of snow on us. But like you didn't wake up a few years ago, late November, 3 feet in one day. Oh, that's a problem. That's a problem, especially if you already have 2 feet on the ground. Okay, I'll be right back in a second. I'm gonna go make some coffee. All right, should be ready in about 5 minutes. You shall be back. Okay. Yeah, that's the long part of making the coffee. got this iced coffee maker or whatever that's it works pretty well. Yeah, this is what I wanted to do last night, but it just didn't work. It just didn't work out. And I'm just not motivated to work on this stuff alone. It's just frankly pretty damn boring. If I'm not filming, if I'm not doing the show, if I'm not doing something where I can, at least interact with folks back and forth, I'm just not interested in doing this. I've developed a bad habit. So I came across something interesting just in my travels, not my travels, in my readings, that apparently the 76 millimeter gun Sherman tanks like these didn't land at Normandy right off the bat. Didn't come on board till July because they didn't want to fool with having supply issues for the 76 millimeter ammo. Hey Marcus, good morning. Slept in today. Better hurry and get some painting done before I gotta make breakfast for the girls. Yeah, if I was making breakfast for the girls, it wouldn't be eating very well. I am definitely not one of my strong suits. Okay, this is the floor that we put in because this particular vehicle didn't have one. And it was just going to look silly having a Flintstones floor, which is no floor at all. You did indeed. In a perfect world, I'll get all these done, and then we'll give them a wash, and then we'll stop letting the wash dry. I think I can do that. I have to stop. I have to stop at 8. I gotta stop in 5 minutes. I gotta wake up the daughter. This is the last hour she has sleeping in her bed. She's got to go back to school. She's got to drive herself back to school and try to avoid some of that heavy traffic. I think the traffic today is going to be stupid. She's not really a fan of going on the interstate, and I don't blame her. But the difference is once I started driving, I would rather be the driver than the passenger in every situation. Okay, let's see if Mr. Cafe is ready. I'm not even going to turn the microphone off. I'm going to try to take it black with no creamer in it. Only reason I put creamer in it because it was giving me acid. It was giving me really bad, not even heartburn. It was like hurting my stomach. Okay, I think it's time to get another one of these. This one's getting awfully sticky. Yeah, she's been with us. She's been back from school. She left school early. She didn't have to take a bunch of tests. She's been home since about December 1. So she's had a long winter break. That's why I hear I'm sitting here painting and you hear kids in the background because her friends that come for a visit or whatever, but they're all gone to wherever they're going to school. She's got to go back for her second semester. So but the driving in Canada, in our experience, man, people drive there a lot more calm. However, the entire country doesn't believe in guardrails. There'll be some crazy place like, man, there's no guardrail here. Yep. You're on your own, bub. Or at least the part of Canada I went to. I'm sure it's different than the east side. It'd be like if I went to Utah and like, oh, all the U.S. is like this, and then you go to New York and like, nope, nope, not at all. Or California. How much longer you got in the Big Apple? You gonna stay there? Are you gonna move back home? I couldn't imagine living there. It's fine for a visit. I just can't imagine living there. I'm really not too worried about the inside of it being painted. I'd much rather be able to reach a limited amount of things as I'm painting them as opposed to having to do this glue after the fact. 5 more years until your daughter goes to university. Man, 5 years is a long time. It is if you think about it. Like, oh man, 5 more years, but if you don't think about it, it's like, man, where'd the last 12 go? A lot has changed in the last 5 years. And I'd almost say none of it's for the better. But I try not to dwell on that shit too much. Because there's nothing you can do about it. Okay, I guess let's roll into the Shermies. Not sure what's next, but I might move back to Virginia. Yep. Well, I just moved. I ain't moving again. I'm ready to do another 20 years here. What kind of work is it that you do again? Or what field do you work in? I honestly don't remember. I'm sure you've told me. You're in private equity finance. You could do that anywhere, couldn't you? That seems like it'd be just you could work from home. Hell, you may in fact work from home. You may be one of those lucky people that can work from home. You know, this cast hole Sherman is definitely, in my opinion, less attractive than the one. This rounded hole one is less attractive than the other ones, but there's a certain amount of charm to it. I don't know what it is. I mean, correctness is good, but I could work anywhere and do, unfortunately. Yeah. Especially if you get paid New York City rates and don't work in New York City. That'd be pretty cool. probably don't even need a car in New York. Except growing up, when everybody had a car and I didn't, I really hate the rain. When you're just trying to get from point A to point B and not get soaked, that is a pain in the ass if you don't have a vehicle. You know, we had a car in Canada, but most days we didn't use it. We left it parked. We took public transportation. You know, I don't have a problem with taking public transportation as long as the people on the public transport are decent people like you, or maybe you're an undecent person. You just, you know. But I had to take the bus when I was going to college, and it was not a fun experience for me. I did not enjoy that. So I don't mind taking public transportation as long as the public transportation you're taking isn't like, you know, full of druggies or, you know, criminals or, you know, people that are gonna, you know, that are a problem on the ride. I was on a bus one time. I was telling my daughter about this because we passed a Greyhound, and the last time I rode on Greyhound was probably 1992, something like that. And when I was trying to join the service way back when, my recruiter, it's like an hour and a half to the processing station. My recruiter did not come and pick me up and stuff. They said, "Here, take the bus. We'll pay for your bus, or whatever." So I rode Greyhound. And one of the trips back, I don't remember whether it was a final one or one of the last ones. Well, this was before reality TV, so this was kind of a big deal. Now with reality TV, it's just another day in reality TV. But there had been this guy that was this girl was on the bus, and this guy was like hitting on her, and I don't know whether they knew each other or whatever, but she basically blew him off, and they went to the stop, and you know I think I was sitting farther. This was happening towards the back of the bus, and I was sitting up towards the front, and this guy and this girl gets out and says, "Man, he took my ring. I don't know where my ring is or whatever." So switch to the next scene, and this other guy decides to play Mr. Vigilante and get on top of him. It just pounding the shit out of him with his fist, trying to get answers from him or where he did the ring or whatever. It was like, where the fuck am I? I don't need to be in this environment, you know? And yeah, I don't have a problem taking public transportation or transportation, but you know, as long as you know, decent folks are on there. You know, I don't need to be, you know, being part of some crime scene or a witness or something like that while that's going on. That's just not my idea of a good time. I like driving, but not in cities. We don't have a car. Well, money you save on it. You know, if there's a time not to get a car, this is the time not to get it, because now they're, you know, now they want to price them however the hell they want, and people pay for them. They put all this kind of shit in cars that cars don't need. These lane assist things that you can't turn off, or they leave lights on your dash. It's a pain in the ass. I got to do the whole car thing in about 4 months, so I'm not looking forward to that. About half a foot of snow dropped here. Freezing rain in Virginia. We got rain, but not freezing. Our high is supposed to be like 60, which is not very high for here. But I would always rather be the driver than the passenger. I'm not one of those people like, well, I feel safer with a professional bus driver driving me around. Fuck that. I'd rather be the driver, you know? Mr. Gross, good morning. I'm not one of these millennials. It's like, I don't want to learn how to drive. Fuck that. I want to be the driver. I trust myself more than anybody else. I was on a snowmobile. I would not want to be. I would do not want to be a passenger on a snowmobile. Absolutely not. I'm either driving or fuck it, I'll walk. No, thank you. I got trust issues, man. Here we go. What do we got? The fact that I am the wrong skin tone around here is making it difficult to get past the interview process. Diversity crap. Go get a job that doesn't have that diversity crap, man. Should hire the best person, regardless of what color their skin is or what their creed is or anything like that. For snow, predicted to get about 5 inches of snow on Monday or Tuesday. Yeah, you guys get a lot of snow there in the middle of the U.S. Flyover country. I didn't fly over you, though. We kind of avoided you. I was actually surprised how far the flight was. It's around two, relatively. You know, any flight that's over 2 hours, kind of a long flight, but. We went from Tampa to Dallas Fort Worth, and Dallas Fort Worth up to Calgary. And that's what I was saying the other day. Is that I'm ignorant when it comes to snow. I am really, really, really ignorant. I'm like a 4-year-old child when it comes to snow. I just don't know shit about it. I haven't been in it enough times, and it was really weird. Like when we flew into Calgary at the beginning of the week. There was some snow on the ground. There was a fair amount of snow on the ground. Not of any significant size, but it had been pushed off to the side. And when we flew in, even at night, you could tell there were fields that were really, really light color where there was snow and other ones where there wasn't. So it was like a patchwork of things. So there was a fair amount of snow on the ground. When we left a week later, there was significantly less snow on the ground. Okay? I'm cool with that, right? So we're leaving Calgary to go to Dallas Fort Worth. And I'm looking out the window. And about when we get over Nebraska, is all white. So the idea that Nebraska, which is significantly south of Calgary, is covered in snow and Calgary isn't, blows my mind. But I just have to think of it like it's just another form of precipitation. It's another form of rain. It's like saying, well, it could be dry in Calgary, but it's raining in Nebraska. So if you look at it at that point, snow is a form of precipitation, but it is just kind of mind-boggling. I just haven't been exposed enough to it that it just seems like a strange phenomenon. That how someplace significantly south of another one could be could have more snow than the one north of it. I don't know. It's just something like it might be common sense to you guys, but to those of us that are, I was going to say landlubbers. That's the wrong thing. Those of us that don't know anything about snow, it just doesn't make any sense. I'm new to this, I'm new to this thing. You're retired, so you avoid driving in the snow. So when we went up there, it were the same temperatures that are the coldest here in Florida, 15 to 20s, 30. No big deal. Clear skies. And everybody's like, man, it's so warm. I said, well, that's our superpower. We go on vacation to cold places and we make it warmer. Which we were a little disappointed that it wasn't any colder. However, the roads were in really good shape. So I'm glad that it went the way it did because I'd hate to deal with freaking ice and stuff like that. It just slow down the process of getting from one place to another. I don't know about being dangerous because, I ain't no crazy driver. And I've driven in it before. It's like, that's when playing video games comes in handy. It's like, yep, Yeah, I've done this before. I'd rather be the driver. Even with my lack of experience, I would much rather be the driver than be a passenger because I like to be able to say when, you know. And some people who just let themselves be distracted by phones and stuff like that. They're not paying attention to other drivers. They're putting too much faith in other drivers. I don't trust anybody when I'm on the road. I'm like, that guy's weaving. That guy's distracted. Let me stay the hell away from him. You know, I can make that decision if I'm the operator of the vehicle. I like the look of fallen snow and snow on the ground, but I've seen 40 winters, and honestly, I'm over the wild snow factor. I don't want to shovel it. And I don't want to live somewhere where it's really, really dry. The snow where I went was wet, and it was good. It felt great to be outside. You know, like the winters are here. But it didn't take long to come back to Florida, and I step outside and you smell like shit. Not like shit, but you stink being outside. Florida stinks. I don't know what it is. It's not the humidity. It must be I don't know what it is about this area. Or anywhere in Florida, really. You step outside, it could be cold, and you smell like shrimp. And it's not, I don't wear deodorant. Bullshit. I wear that all the time. But I was outside all day long in freaking Canada, and you come back and your clothes smell like clean laundry. Here, you go out and you take the trash out, and you already smell like a shrimp salad that's been out in the sun. You know, it goes away, but it's just unpleasant. Like, what the hell's going on? Should try driving in a blizzard from Philadelphia to Pittsburgh. That was fun. No, not being able to see is not fun. You're just gonna have to go really freaking slow. You know, just like driving in heavy rain. I don't drive crazy in heavy rain. You slow the hell down if you can't see. Or you pull off the road, or don't even start the trip. Snow during the winter months is vital for soil moisture levels. That in turn is important for growing crops. Because you guys are super dry, huh? I take it you guys are probably pretty dry out in Missouri. Surprised my shoulders more important than a bad elbow isn't barking over shoveling the snow we got here. Definitely, especially here in a very dry summer. Extra snow is a blessing. Steve, in the town you live, if you don't clean your sidewalks, does a big brother come after you? I just I just find that hard to believe. I find that I find it hard to believe that that's allowable. Like, you know, you get a foot of snow. Like, let's say you got that foot of snow, right, last night, right? Um, and you can't clean your sidewalk off, and you're out of town. You're still going to get a fine by the city or whatever? That just seems draconian. Here in Missouri, we're very much like, you know, we've been dry for the last 2 years. That sucks. It definitely need the moisture. I couldn't stand how dry it was in Colorado and Utah. It was way too freaking dry. And that's what I was expecting. And it was moist as hell where I went. What a blessing. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do my goal, which is to get these guys done and then give them a whoosh before I have to disconnect. You know what I can't stand about cold climates is how everybody's such a sissy with a heater. We went the day we got back from snowmobiling. Almost could have done it in shorts. Almost. At times it was warm, and we get back into town and go to the Irish bar to go grab a pint, and they had the heater over 76 degrees. I was dying in there. Like, okay, it's 30 degrees outside. You're dressed for 30. You're fine in 30. Why come in to freaking 76 degrees that even if I could strip down to shorts, I'd still be uncomfortable in? I just don't understand it. I don't understand it. I don't understand the. I do not understand the heater. The heater makes no sense. It kills all the humidity. I feel like crap. It uses a lot of power, so you can't be like, we're trying to save the earth. How about don't even turn the freaking heater on? Leave it on whatever temperature it is. If it's 30 degrees outside, the inside is not going to get colder than 52. That's free 52 degrees. You don't have to pay for any of that. I don't understand. Is everybody that much of a sissy? The law here is within 24 hours of the end of snowfall, those will be fined $100 depending on how many times we've been fined for it. That's way too much government. I can't live in one of those. I can't live in one of those damn states. Lee Summit, they would like you to remove the snow on the sidewalk, but it's never enforced. Well, I'm not going to let your house go to shit, but it's like, Mother Nature's on the rag. I've got other plans, I'm out of town, Clearing snow from your stretch of pavement in the UK is tradition. Not mandated, fallen out of favor as folks are scared they would be liable if someone fell and claimed an injury. Well, why wouldn't you sue whatever the city is? Or is the sidewalk your property? You refuse to be cold if I can avoid it. Yeah, I can't be indoors in the dryness. The heater just absolutely kills me. So, where I work, I struggle. And when it's 100 degrees, 90 something degrees outside, I struggle to get them to drop the air to less than 75. And there's no air circulation, so it's hot as fuck. Okay? And you'll come in the wintertime. In the wintertime, they'll have the heat higher than the AC is in the summertime. What kind of faulty fucking logic is that? So yeah, that's why you guys I gotta work from home, zero sympathy for me. Zero. I would love to work from home and be in whatever temperature. We haven't turned the air on. What is it, 62 in the house, 63? Whatever. Free. And it's comfortable. This house is also significantly colder than the other one. Better insulated, better built. Why would you have the heater on at a warmer temperature than the AC ever is in the summertime? What kind of logic is that? It doesn't get cold here. I mean, it gets, the other day it works. 47, fine. I'll put one shirt on and have a long shirt over it. That's it. I didn't bring a jacket or nothing. Don't need no sissy ass jacket. I mean, I know I'm overweight, but I'm not a fucking walrus. You know, I'm not that well insulated. Can't do without the heat because the pipes will freeze and burst. Then you have a real problem. Don't you leave the water trickling a little bit? Oh well. You're not convincing me to move north or to somewhere with more government. Sorry. I went in the I went into the freaking I went into the freaking hobby store. You know, and I've got all these things and I'm like, you know, I'm like, can I get a bag? You know, because I'm putting them in a car and they'll be sloshing all over the car where they're at there. There's literally the back of the car was empty. And he's like, no, we don't have any. The government does not allow us to order more. It took me like no time for me to go into, we got too much government. You guys definitely have way too much government. And the guy's like, literally his mouth was agape, like I had something bad to say about, you know, the imperial federal government or whatever they call it there. I'm like, sorry, I believe in the least amount of, you got to have some government because otherwise private entities would just go, you know, would just get out of control. I mean, because there's some people, I don't work for an evil corporation, but there's some that are out there that, you know, definitely would get away with, they would murder people if they get away with it, okay? I'm not saying any of them or even most of them, but some would. So you got to have some kind of checks and balances. But, you know, you got to have checks and balances on the government too, and that solution for that is not have so much government. But anyhow, there's my tirade, but I was like, what do you mean? I can see if, you know, you don't want plastic bags because people are trash and they leave crap everywhere, right? And there was significantly less litter in Canada than the United States. There's no doubt about it. It was definitely very, very clean. So, what, you couldn't have bags of any kind? You know, I don't know. That just doesn't sit well with me. It's like, oh no, millennial gamer heard a difference of opinion from him. Oh no. Probably have to go back and change his panties when he gets back to his mom's house. Oh well. Temp gets so cold here during the winter that you'd be in the world's dumbest person and not have the heat on to some degree. You basically negate your home insurance if you do that. What's the coldest it gets there? 10 degrees? Zero? If it's 0 degrees, and we're talking about Fahrenheit, not that Celsius thing. If it's 0 degrees outside, what's the coldest if you don't put the heat on? Your inside of your home's going to get 50? I don't think it'd get under 50. You keep your house at 68 during the winter. I think Gen Z, Tony, millennials are better adjusted to Gen Z. You guys are all in the same boat. I'm in the bottom half. I'm in the bottom half of the. What's my generation supposedly? X. X starts with 64, and I had an older dad, so I really should have been born in 61, not 71. So. We also have a humidifier in our furnace. Yeah, you gotta do the humidifier. 68. No way. That's way too hot for me. But hey, you do you. Yeah, they'll turn the heater on like 76 at work, and there's no ceiling fan. I'm dying in there. Oh well, only 15 more years of that nonsense. I hope. Millennials, Generation Z, or what's the new one? I lump all you guys in the same boat. Sorry. People that grew up without the Soviet Union. I swear everything went to shit when they got rid of the Soviet Union. That's what I'm blaming it on. Had real problems to worry about, not these, half-assed things. That guy called me a sissy. Well, don't be a sissy. You're not a millennial, okay? My father figure was a Vietnam vet who was strict as all get out. They are predicting sub-zero here in Missouri later this week. Pipes will freeze. The temp outside hits 20 degrees or below. Well, we had an incident in our house, and one of in like, what year was it? Was it the year that it snowed? It might have been in '89 that our pipes froze in the garage and there was a problem. But we weren't living in it. But my dad always said if it got below freezing, we'd leave the house. We'd leave a slow drip on the on the faucet. But wintertime for me, that's a time to save money and not have much utilities. But fortunately, the important thing is you don't live with people that want the opposite of what you want. Like if I lived with the people I want to work with, we'd come to blows. There's no way. There's no way I'd put up with that nonsense. But my daughter likes it cold, my wife likes it cold, and I like it cold. Especially if the cold is free. Like it's not like, we're turning the air down to 60, which you can't do for multiple reasons. You can't afford it, you'll freeze your unit, etc. Even if you could afford it, so. But those people that I hear about it, like, yeah, my husband always likes it cold and I like it hot. I don't know how you guys don't, I don't know how you get along. I don't know how you just like, sorry, it's just a lot less uncomfortable just to get a divorce. I don't know how people can do it. And I absolutely love wearing long sleeves. I do. I don't get much of an opportunity to do it. Well, I did last week. Every day. Every stinking day. We're not going to make it. That's okay. We have to get these done in a hurry. We're not going to make it in that. I'm not going to have enough time to wash these guys. No big deal. Who cares? That's just a process that it needs to wait about a couple hours for that stuff to settle in place so that it'll look right. Nordica, your chances of me moving to your town are basically nil now. Thanks. And I like Pennsylvania. I've been to Pennsylvania. It's pretty. Maybe not everywhere. I mean, there's shitholes in every state. But there's parts of Pennsylvania that are beautiful. I definitely prefer the plastic models to these white metal heavy things. Cleaning the flash on a plastic model is a piece of cake compared to cleaning the flash on a white metal thing. Especially if the white metal is not a figure. We're going to hand paint everything on these things except the stars. And you know me, I'm looking forward to it. That's the part that I like, is putting all the markings and stuff. You don't want to live here? Yeah. Tell you what, Tony, pop on up here and I'll take you sledding down the mountain. My daughter did some of that. And I'm like, I'm not gonna do that. I don't wanna get I hurt my tailbone several years ago. Not really bad, but discomfort. And I'm like, I don't want discomfort on my trip. Thank you. These guys had made a we stopped snowmobiling and they made like this channel, like a slide, like a water slide, with no water. And I'm like, I'm not doing that. Because all there needs to be is like one rock, and sure enough, there was a rock in there, and freaking your tailbone, and you'd be discomfort for, like, nope, I'm good. I'm not getting injured on my trip. Not getting injured on my trip, and then who knows how long it'll take me to get medical treatment. That's one thing I couldn't get from the Canadians, whether or not they actually like their medical system. I talked to several people about it, and it was like a mixed bag. Some people liked it, and some people didn't. One guy said it was like terrible. He said he had something that was wrong with his knee, and he couldn't go see a doctor for almost a year. By the time he went to go see it, something was wrong with the other knee because it was compensating for the first one. And then other people said it was good. I guess it just depends on, what experience you have. Just like the medical thing here in the U.S. I mean, my only problem with the medical thing in the U.S. is that sometimes I don't want a medical system where I can't. I don't know how it is in other parts of the world, but I have a PPO. So if the doctor I start going to, I don't like them, I can fire them and I can go to another doctor. I don't want any medical system where I can't do that, where it rewards people for doing a shitty job and you're stuck with them. That is a no-go situation for me. If you do a crappy job, you should be out of work. That's my opinion. That's how I was raised. You do the best you can. If you purpose, if you're doing a crappy job at something, you shouldn't have a job at it. And I basically fired my primary doctor. They don't know it yet, but they have this doctor. I just got tired of her nonsense. She has a bedside manner of Genghis Khan. Genghis Khan's even more attractive. But anyhow, the last straw was I had this appointment that I've been, I had to wait like two weeks to get it. And then she was sick, so I needed to reschedule. And I'm like, no, I needed to do this before I went on my trip, so I'll reschedule later. And I found another doctor. Of course, I had to wait a couple of weeks for them, but I was going to have to do that for the first one anyway, so just for the initial visit. When you were learning to rollerblade, you fell and you spiked your tailbone on the corner of a stone step. It's no fun at all. Well, it's not. For me, it wasn't terrible, but it was, it's discomforting, But there was two things about my trip that I found really surprising. Three things that were surprising. The first one, that it was humid. I was really surprised about that. The second of all is the freaking food was fantastic. I mean, just incredible. Like pre-COVID, because the food in the United States are the places, there's places, you every place is going to have good food, every place is going to have bad food, but if you go out to try to search good food and you don't get it, is where the problem is. And the food in the United States, in my opinion, after COVID has just gone to shit. There's a lot of places that just, they don't do as good a job as, everything went up in price. I get it, cost of whatever, but you don't get to go up in price and have a shittier product. That's called like pulling a Games Workshop. When you go to a container that's this big to this big and it's more money. No, pick one or the other. Go up in price and keep the same size, or keep the same price and go down in size, but not double whammy. And the COVID thing was just a fucking excuse for, everything. For everything being shitty and just people putting up with it. So the food was spectacular. What was the other thing? There was something else. It was a wonderful trip. It's a beautiful country. But I shouldn't judge all of Canada just on my trip, because it'd be like going to Park City, Utah, and judging all the United States based on that. So that's not really fair, But didn't seem like another country. You only have a couple metal vehicles in your collection. I tend to move them on if I can replace them with a resin or plastic equivalent. Too heavy and brittle. Only got a Lux and a Stug A left. Yep, I got the Lux from these people. I don't like resin because I just feel like it's difficult to repair. And I don't have any experience with the 3D printed resin stuff. I want to get some, and I came really close to pulling the trigger on some stuff, but it's the shipping that scares me. Speaking of Games Workshop, I saw 2 of their new starter sets for the old world, and they were $255 and $290 a piece. The models were 15 years ago. A complete and total ripoff and extortion. Okay, so what? You was going to get some. I said flat out no more Games Workshop stuff from here. Predatory price gouging and extortion is absurd. Okay, but what is Games Workshop's biggest sin, in your opinion? In my opinion is that they rewrite their own fucking rules every 3 years to get you to buy more rule books. That is an unforgivable sin. And it's your own damn fault if you fall into it, They don't do historical stuff. So it'd be like, it would be like if I would get upset that the prices that they're charging at a gay porn site. Like, okay, I don't watch gay porn, so it doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't really appeal to what I'm doing, but so Games Workshop doesn't do anything that I'm interested in to begin with. But if I was, that whole rewrite the rules every 3 years, they can just, go piss up a rope, What does that like to say? Fly a kite up their own ass. There you go. I don't know where I got that from. That's their biggest sin. Because they've had good products. Their original paints, these paints are awesome. These are awesome freaking paints. There's nothing wrong with them. Okay? Then they went to the other bottles. They sucked ass. They were terrible. Okay? And now the new ones are okay. These are okay. These are all right. But the other ones that had the hard bottom and the hard top, I literally have used one of the colors like Dwarf Bits or something once. Pulled it out again, or maybe it was a gold. Pulled it out again about a year later, couldn't use it again. It already dried out. Oh, you didn't tighten it down. It's tight enough. Okay, so I've got hundreds of paints, and I only have a problem with those. Yeah, you guys have a shit design, Their Agrax Earthshade was great in the big bottle that I got a couple years ago. Then they got it to the smaller bottle, and they changed the formula. It got like sticky. Well, they lost me. I'm going to Army Painter now, which I'm not a fan of Army Painter stuff, but their strong tone is better. So, it's really frustrating when you have somebody that actually makes a really good product, and they're like, hey, how can we, gouge people? How could we make it shittier? No, if you got to charge more for your freaking product because the cost of you making it go up more, I mean, everybody knows that the cost went up. Minimum wage is, double what it used to be a couple years ago. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but anyhow, that goes along with everything else. I get it. It's got to go up. But don't just start making stuff crappy. It's like if you go buy a car and it's like, man, we got to cut costs. Let's only give them 3 tires instead of 4. You're providing a shitty product, you know? Games Workshop have sold out of Gold Stuff World already. Why do people follow? Why are they that popular? I mean, there's other fantasy and science fiction systems that I don't get it. Other fears they would not have proper supply of the man. Now props guys are going to be worse. Prop paints are made to dry out fast. So you have to pay more for main paints for every few months. It's bullshit. Well, I have not experienced that with these paints. But it certainly wasn't the case with these. I got some of these that are over 30 years old and they're still kicking. So maybe that was like, man, we can't buy it. We can't sell any new paints. We got to make them shittier. I don't know if they did that on purpose. I'd like to think that they didn't. I don't wish them any harm, but the problem is if you want me to believe in the products that you're selling, and you go and redesign them every 3 years, you basically don't have any faith in your own product. So why should I? But I was a fan of their stuff back when they were called Citadel. I know, maybe they were always called Games Workshop, but in the late 80s, early 90s, it was always known as Citadel here in the States. And their shit was great. They were the first ones that had stands that were really good. They said the name of the miniature on them. Their stuff looked great. That's their business model. Never interested in anything Games Workshop except the paint. There was a couple things I wanted to get into, and they discontinued them quickly before I ever got into them. The Epic stuff, whatever, Man of War, and Dark Future, and they discontinued all 3 of those things. Yeah, the Cote d'Arms. Jeffrey, I would buy, all of this would be Cote d'Arms if I could walk into a store and get them. And as a matter of fact, the Cote d'Arms that I have, I picked them up, which are these guys. These paints, oh, you can't see that. Hold on a second. These paints right here are Cote d'Arms. And they're my favorite paints. Except this design, it breaks here. That no paint design is perfect. This little thing breaks here, the hinge, and this thing eventually comes off. Other than that, they even smell good. They're wonderful. And these are over 20 years old. I got these when I was first painting my 20 millimeter stuff in the mid 90s. And they're still good. I love these paints. They're my favorite paints. You can't walk into a store and get them here in the United States. Or not in my area. I want to say Brigade Games or somebody in the middle of the U.S. They might be near Steve. You could walk in there and get them. But they're wonderful, They really are. All the miniatures are Citadel miniatures. Founder Brian Ansell died last week. I heard a lot of posts of him, but his name doesn't ring a bell for me. Mr. Jacques, welcome. You'd go with Cote d'Arms paint, or at least give them a whirl if they could be bought here in the States, but I've never seen them for sale. Yeah, there was a store in Tampa called Emperor's Outpost, and in the mid 90s who carried them, and I tried them. The other paint that is terrible is this other paint called Howard Hughes, and they always would dry out on me. And they came with these big containers. They almost were the size of, They were almost like this, but they were round, and they had like specific military color paints, and the paint was, it was almost paste like, almost like a thick, like a pastel, and they were really good, but they dried out on me. I had a few of those called Howard Hughes, Hues. So, oh, there you go. No, maybe it was Hugs. Yeah. Love Citadel paints had some pots more than 20 years. Yeah, the old ones, man. These things are great. I have an unopened. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, that's the open one. I have an unopened pot of Shadow Gray. Should I put it on eBay? How much do you think it'd go for? Stuff Felix Saginaw bottles, original bottle in 1990. Yeah, they don't die. They don't die. They're wonderful, you know? Yeah, it's a shame. The Howard Hughes paints had a lot of promise, but the thing that makes these paints good is two things. This is the best paint pot of all of them. You know, it's better than the Vallejos, everything. Why? This is a soft, rubbery, it has bounce back. It's made of a rubber that has a lot of, how do I describe it? Oil in it. So it has it gives and it seals back up really well. And the lid's made out of the same type of thing. So both of them together, they keep it nice and sealed. The old Citadel ones this was hard. I mean, the replacement of them, this was a hard plastic, this was a hard plastic. So then you get into something like, the tester stuff that's like glass with metal. They freaking dry out. Those old Pactra paints, all that, all that stuff, hard on hard. Soft on soft is what works the best and seals them up the best, in my opinion. That's, and probably the paint that's in there probably has something to do with it as well. But everything in here is stellar. Oh, can't see it again. Everything in here is stellar. But it's also can't be found again. You can't get these again. And these are hard to find. I mean, if there was a store that had these, I'd walk in and get them. Now, some of you guys in the UK, you guys have those foundry paints. Do they have any kind of common ancestor to these? Or the foundry paint? The foundry paints look, because of the size of the container, that they would be the similar thing that is this. Do the foundry paints keep like these? Or is it kind of not really a thing either? Vallejo paints have extreme lifespan too. They sure do. Yeah. I stopped using them pretty early on. Discovered Vallejo paints back when I made Flames of War paint set. Yeah. I switched to Vallejo. I switched to Vallejo because I sold a bunch of stuff and I'm like, oh, I like this. I can put one little drop of paint in. That's it. That's the only reason. I would not have bought this insanity number of paints if I had not sold stuff, because this is, even at $3 a piece, this is a shitload of money, but it's an investment. You still have an unopened Horizon Blue, bought it for unfinished U.S.-Mexican War project. What colors is it? This one? No, this is Ultramarines. Beautiful blue. This Ultramarines blue is a beautiful blue. Hard to get a good purple though. Always had a little bit too much red in it. But I keep seeing those foundry paints, and there's a vendor that comes to Historicon. I want to say it's Brigade Games. I could be wrong. And they have a shitload of the tricolor, whatever the triads is what they call them, the triads. God, what was the name of that first-person shooter that came out in the early 90s that had triads or something? It was like some kind of science fiction. Man, a friend of mine had that and loved that game. I don't remember what it was. Had body parts that would blow off the people or whatever. Rise of the Triads or some shit like that. It's the last time I used triad as a name. But yeah, the Games Workshop the War Games Foundry triads. See, since I didn't grow up in the UK and I never did Games Workshop stuff, I don't understand the who's who of the Citadel Games Workshop split, and because there's a lot of people that have gone through Games Workshop and started their own companies, or work for other companies, people like Priestley and stuff like that. Not really in the know of what the heritage, for lack of a better word, that's not the word I'm looking for, but of those companies are. And I'm sure that they sprung up other ones once they're like, well, I don't want to deal with that shit. Once the Games Workshop got corporate, I don't understand why everybody follows them off a cliff if they come up with, predatory ideas. There's other stuff out there. I did that video of that Century Box store. Their entire bottom floor, which was massive, was all, products that I have no interest in ever buying. It was all Games Workshop or Bolt Action or all that kind of stuff. And I don't know why that kind of stuff just kind of gravitates. And the problem isn't those companies in particular, but a lot of people, and maybe it's just the people. People are the problem. Is that they don't ever go and, there's these other manufacturers that also make things. They almost go for these companies that are all in one. They provide the miniatures and they provide the rules and everything. And I'm old school. To me, the miniatures were never, the people made rule sets, and then there's other people that made miniatures. And they, the first time I encountered any kind of overlap was when Skytrex and Old Glory teamed up to make those command decision packs in 15 millimeter for Frank Chadwick's game. And they supposedly were done that, or when GHQ made the squad leader sets. That was it. It was just, you either made miniatures or you made the rules, and you didn't. If you made the rules, you didn't give a shit who made the miniatures, and the miniatures, they didn't give a shit what rules you used. There just wasn't that kind of overlap, and maybe it was Games Workshop and the way that they deal with things that gave other people ideas of doing the same thing. Because now it just seems like it's the norm, and they just take it to extremes when you have companies that like, we're going to make some American Civil War miniatures, and they're in 12 and 3/4 millimeter, so you have to buy them from us. And it just seems odd to me. It seems odd to me because you got all your eggs in one basket, and if they stop manufacturing these miniatures, then you're up a creek. Just like when Zyston came out with 15 millimeter, Zyston figures are beautiful. There's no doubt about it. And they came out with some Romans in 15 millimeter. But they only had the infantry. They came up with some Republican Romans. They only had the infantry for many, 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 many years. It took them like 10 years to come up with a cavalry for them. It sure seems like it was like 10 years. And it was like, why would I buy the infantry if they're not making the cavalry for it? Because they were like specifically large figures. The Zyston figures are larger than most figures, and the Romans are the largest of their larger figures. I don't know. I'm just old, I guess, now. It's just weird to me to have, to have that kind of non-overlap. Reaper Masterclass, really good. Don't have them here in a store. They can use any special paints are mixed wrong and produced a different color. It can't be bought. I have a purple-red color from them like that. I like the fact that few rule sets have left or miniature agnostic. I can get my miniatures from any company that produces them to scale I want to paint. So I went 15 millimeter. Finding money comes this one. We're all old. I'm not. I don't feel like it. I'm not old. I'm just tired with these people trying to change my freaking world. I'm not old. I'm just crotchety. I've always been this way, though. You know, there's problems we're always going to have in this world that we're never going to solve. Stop creating more. I really do like Shermans. And it's not because they're the best tank or the most beautiful tank. It's just that you see something that people just don't give a shit about. And you're like, you know what? You should give a shit about it and make it look cool. And I'm not American centric where it's like, I need American shit. I'm not interested in building it. I've actually been a contrarian to that my whole wargaming life. You know, I grew up with people, not everybody, but I grew up with some people that were like they didn't want to war game something unless America was involved because somehow they couldn't relate. You know, just like those stupid people that they can't watch a war movie unless there's Americans in it. They got to sneak Americans in something for it to make sense. You know, um, I'm not one of those folks. But there's a bit of this, oh, these are just generic, just throw them together attitude that can be improved upon. It's like an opportunity to. You think it's like, okay, well, all the Shermans are the same. Hell no. I was trying to figure out which version of the 76 millimeter Sherman tank this is, and apparently what I found out is this split hatch, which is the loader's hatch, is the old is the old hatch from the other Shermans that had a single hatch. So they just brought it over here, and it was only on the initial run of these 76 millimeter gun tanks. Eventually, this was replaced with an oval hatch because this split hatch had a problem with it that it could only open 90 degrees. In other words, it wouldn't flap all the way open. So it was an issue for them. Like I just assume, you just assume that all Shermans are the same, and they're not. They're other than being different engines, and even within that, there's all kinds of interesting things for a lot of other nations other than the Germans that makes them all individual. Because the German stuff's all individual, and that's a big appeal of why they're as popular as they are. But the other guys have stuff like that too. And oh look, we got to the end of the log. I got to go wake up the daughter and make sure she's awake. I think I'll be right back. I will be right back, even if to say that I can't do anything else. But what else we got here to talk for now? Good day, gentlemen. You're about to begin mine. He is the man behind the early business model, regular changes of rules and figure ranges. He sold Games Workshop, moved to Guernsey, and founded Guernsey Foundry. I've heard of Guernsey Foundry. You're talking about the Brian Ansel guy? Regular changes of rules. I just fuck that guy. That's just not. I'm not interested in keep. I don't. I've said it before. I don't like playing keeping up with the Joneses. You know, we all have a limited amount of resources, and basically throwing everything you have an investment in away just doesn't make any sense to me. So there's more honorable ways to make a living. I'll be right back. Let's see. Let's see. The Cult of Games Workshop. Did you see a few months back a big Games Workshop YouTube shill Midwinter Miniatures did a video claiming all historical wargaming is World War II, and if you play the Germans, you're a Nazi and believe in their ideology. That was a long time ago. Sheer ignorance of the guy is astounding. Doesn't surprise me because I'm counterplaying the cult again. Wouldn't know the head from the rear when it came to historical topics. Yeah, they can just. How do you guys say over in the UK? You can fuck right off. I'm not bending over backwards for people that that these newfangled folks that have no clue of anything, but yet they have an opinion and think the world needs to hear them. I don't bend over for them. You want to call me a racist? Go right ahead. If I'm a racist, you're a pussy. There we go. You can't use that word anymore. Just did, asshole. Okay. Let's, there was that new game, Call to Arms, had the Ostfront thing. I can never remember what the hell it is. It's called Gates of Hell. Ostfront, Gates of Hell, or whatever it is that I played. There's these little quotes between the loading screens. I don't know if this is a legitimate quote or not. But there was this quote that supposedly was attributed to Erich Hartmann. You know, Erich Hartmann's a leading German ace of the Second World War. 352 kills, supposedly. There's this quote on there that said something along the lines of, and I'm totally paraphrasing, I don't remember what it is, but it really surprised me. That said something along the lines of, you can't judge the, Nazi Germany based on, well, he didn't say Nazi Germany, he said Germany, based on, the acts of a few. You can't win. The Americans had segregated forces and stuff like, it's like, you're comparing apples to, to breath mints, it's like, oh man. Okay. So let's do the Stewies. They've been brushed for a while. They've been painted for a while, and let's give them a wash. Okay, and this should be this one, is it? Nope, that's black. Okay, it's near in this area. There it is, and I probably need to get a new one of these soon. This is the strong tone, which I am not a fan of army painter stuff, but their washes are good. Their washes are good. Said before, Tony's people who keep labeling others racist for the only thing push those individuals down and I sympathize in their cause. Yep. I don't care what they believe in. I'm against them because they're that ignorant. That's what happens when you don't allow bullying in school. Back when there was bullying, those guys would have an atomic wedgie and straighten them right out. But they just keep talking their stuff. I'm not catering to them. You give them an inch, the next thing they want a mile, and then you give them a mile. It's never good. It's never going to be good enough, no matter what you do. So don't do anything for them. We're just going to give these a little bit of a wash. And this stuff is stickier than paint a little bit, so I'll probably get some on my hands, but it's no big deal. This is available at the local game store, which I'm not a fan of supporting because there's a bunch of fruit, sissy fruitcakes in there. Maybe that'll be my new name for them. These people, the sissy fruitcakes. It's not about having a difference of opinion. It's just being like, you can't have a reasonable conversation with them because you're just not reasonable. These are the kind of people that you look up. I mean, you look up, one of the worst empires of the world ever, and they'll say the British Empire. I'm like, what are you guys smoking? What are you freaking smoking? Top 5 worst empires ever, and the British Empire is named one of them. What the hell's wrong with you? Did they do everything right? No, nobody did. But come on. And there was a term, and I can't remember what it is right now, and I came across it about a year ago. And it was when you're judging people of the past by rules of today. And I forget what it was, a very succinct term. Modernist. It's not that, but it's something like that. And it was like, yeah, it's what it is. You can't do that, Give them an inch, take the whole damn continent. Yeah, screw them. Send them into outer space. The amusing thing is you can't find a single period of history in which there wasn't some kind of atrocity committed or something else that offends these modern pussies. It's just impossible. So, by the same token, I mentioned this before, there's a guy I'm Facebook friends. I'm pretty much Facebook friends with anybody who wants to send me a Facebook request. I'll look at their page, and if there's not something like, they're on some kind of crusade, because I don't want to be friends with anybody on the crusade. I don't really care what your crusade is. I don't need to be recruited for a crusade. That had this post about celebrating these SS guys on their birthday or some shit like that. And I'm like, no, that just doesn't sit well with me. That just doesn't sit well with me. And, like I said before, my people aren't part of any group that was persecuted by them. But that just, no. I unfriended that person. I'm like, nope. I didn't have to say anything to him like, you're such and such and such and such. Because maybe it was, harmless. But I don't need to be part of that either. Rat bastards are rat bastards, no matter who they are. Happy birthday to some SS guy and decorated, and he was brave to stop defending the Europe from communism. Look, I'm the most anti-communist person ever, but one thing doesn't make the other one better. You don't need to go to the other extreme, or maybe it's the same extreme of a different flavor. It's the same size ice cream cone of a different flavor. How about that? No. So you weren't on here earlier, Nordic, but I solved my frustrations with airbrush, and that's by changing the airbrush to a 0.5. Changed from the 0.35 needle it came with to a 0.5, and it ran this great. It worked exactly like it should have. So presentism, that the term? Maybe. Let me look into it. But I actually like the term. I'm gonna look it up. Presentism. My crusade is hot blondes and hot Asian women. I can't join you. That's good. I'm not in the market for that stuff anymore. Besides, I prefer redheads and brunettes anyways. Oh, man. Yeah, I'm good stopping after I do these last two Stewarts. That's what I'm going to work on next. It's going to take a couple hours for these to dry. I could probably push it more than that, but I need some time to take care of some real world stuff. Not this fantasy world where there's no problems. This cardboard must have gotten some moisture on it, and it's all bendy. And then when we're done with this, we'll do one of them at a time. We'll work on one Stewart and not do the other one until we're done with the first one. A lot of these guys have like yellow numbers, yellow markings and stuff. Big old yellow lettering that like B34. And I'm like, I had to figure out what that is. It's funny how the German numbering system just, after so many years is simple too. It makes sense to me, but like, what does this B32 mean? So it's B Company, 3rd Platoon, 4th Tank. So and then I'm probably, if I'm going to add any junk on them, I'm going to do that after everything else is done. I am going to add some junk to them, but I'm not going to go crazy. There's a company called Black Dog. I believe they're out of the US, UK, and they make all kinds of really cool extra accoutrement, gypsy caravan style stuff that you can add to your vehicles. It costs more than the friggin' vehicle. That's geared towards IPMS style stuff. But if I didn't have to pay for shipping for it, I'd probably get a set of it and then spread it among multiple vehicles. There's no reason one vehicle needs to be covered. Like, it can't even move its turret when you can take some of those things and spread it along 3 vehicles. But it's the $10 shipping that's really kills me. Like I've said before, if I wanted it bad enough, I would have gotten it. I don't need to want it so badly. I don't need to want it. Let's what do we got here? Why drop it directly on the tanks? It's simpler. It saves time. Picked up a 3D printed Stewart. Here's my favorite word. In the U.S., that would be called Reese. You guys call it Recce, which just seems weird. It seems weird for a C to have a hard, but whatever. Reconnaissance. How about that? I use the word recon almost on a daily basis at work. Stewart Recon tank, okay? The one used in Italy where they removed the turret. I didn't know Monty used one of those as a command vehicle either. $10 shipping isn't bad at all. Depends on how many items you're getting. I'm talking about one item. Bad. I don't need it badly enough, you know? I gotta justify stuff to myself. I could have picked up a lot more stuff at the store and I just didn't. I mean, you gotta show some kind of self-control. And the next thing you know, you just develop these bad habits. So, I really shouldn't have gotten any of this stuff, but I'm like, all right, well, we gotta help Canada with their economy a little bit. And the guys admitted that that historical area was just the owner's kind of pet project, but it didn't make any money. I should have said, well, none of this stuff really makes any money, but I didn't want to go there. It might have hurt their feelings. I've worked at a hobby store before. I know how it works. I can only imagine it's even worse now than it used to be. That's going to tip over because this is bouncy bastard. Which 3D printing company did you get that from, Jeffrey? Was it Badger? Badger 3D Studios? I came really close to pulling the trigger on some Italian tanks by a printer in the US, in California. Is that still the US? It is for now. Called I don't remember what the name of the company is, but it's an STL file that's available for anybody to use because it's called Excise Miniatures or something like that. I was gonna pull on the trigger on some Italian tanks, and I'm like, I think it'd be cool, but that just opens up another theater. And I'm not ready to do that yet. I have no infantry for North Africa. So. And I have no eye ties of any kind. But I put them in my cart. I got lots of things in my eBay cart. Just didn't pull the trigger on it. Don't need them bad enough. Yes, I wasn't doing this originally, and then I'm like, I'm wasting a lot of time not applying this directly to the figure. So I'll try to cut corners where I can. There's a lot of things in my method that I just don't allow myself to. So any chance I get it to have an opportunity to cut a corner, I'll try and take it. And this just saves me from putting a container where this stuff is at. And that's the advantage that the eyedropper has, because I can do that. I couldn't do that with the Games Workshop one. It's not like I was pouring it on there. This is just my little bit of modulation. biggest pitfall for this hobby is overbuying things. A lot of us tend to just keep buying no matter how much we get painted. Yeah. Well, and then not enough people do what you were talking about, Nordic, is just get rid of your old stuff. You have this, you get this overwhelming dread of like, man, I got to get these guys painted, and you're not enjoying the experience. So you just need to stop torturing yourself, sell them, and start over. And then hopefully learn from what you did in the past. I mean, we're not all perfect. We've all made mistakes. We've all bought more things that we needed. Let's just realize that that can be a problem, and not do it. And more is not better. And what I've said before, the online experience has actually helped me be less interested in buying things, because the fact that you can see what's inside of a package somewhere, not every package, but many times, keeps you from just ordering something just to see what the hell it looks like. So you think that, oh, well, pictures will help people buy more figures. Well, not if they look like crap. If you have crappy looking miniatures, people are going to see that they're crappy and they're not going to buy your stuff anymore. But I have ordered things before just because I didn't know what they look like, just out of curiosity. And I'm like, well, let me just get them. And then, usually you end up being disappointed. But so the online aspect keeps me from doing just that. And also let me put them in my cart, so you have the feeling of how much it's going to cost, and then you just don't pull the trigger on it. So, I can buy anything I want. I just got to be able to, I just need to do something with it. Then it's okay. But just to buy shit and just have it sit there, that's stupid. Yeah, sometimes you just have to clean up your room. You have to clean up your act and get rid of things that are just they're like it's like a dark cloud. So had I not gone to this store, I wouldn't have picked this stuff up right now, because I got other things to work on. I was working on other things, and these guys showed up. Which is also why I spent a couple hours and I talked myself into not getting any Commonwealth tanks, because I didn't want to open that wide open. As much as I wanted to get honeys, the pack of honeys, and there was some M4A2s that were there. I'm like, oh, I could make some Canadians, and then I apologize for knocking a tank out, that kind of stuff, all that kind of fun thing. I'm like, no, I gotta really just stick with what I have. More isn't better. Well, they haven't stopped me, so I'm going to keep going. And I will stop after I'm done with the Shermans, if nothing else. But I do not like these metal things. Got rid of most of your old stuff. I used to get stuff I wanted. I'm actually going to make a list of the remaining 28mm, so give me time to move. Yeah, it feels better. It's just like, well, how troubling it was for me to paint that Blue Moon stuff. It was the best move. But yeah, sometimes you just need to get rid of them. Throw away all the junk food, so to speak. Oh, get unhooked. I need to I keep saying this, do a test game of this just to see what this is like. So I've actually never played with the armor rules for this game. I've read them. They look good. They look better than anything else that I'm interested in. But since it's not a tournament game, if something doesn't seem right, I am fully prepared to change it to my liking. Not on a whim. Freaking do your research. There's certainly enough data points for something happened 80 years ago to be able to form an opinion on it. I have a feeling I'll be back on later today. I think that's going to happen. My headache's gone. I really want to do this. I want to see some of these tanks finished. I want to hand paint some of the stuff on. Is what I really, really, really want to do. One more hole and 3 turrets, and we're done. You know, I can mix my own mixture of this and probably do the same thing, but at some point you got to sub things out to somebody. You know, you got to delegate, and I've delegated the wash mixture to Army Painter. This also works as a pretty good sealer. So it helps seal also that base color paint. But yeah, I had a really happy experience yesterday airbrushing. My happiest experience yet because I changed the size of the needle. And like I said earlier, I don't know if you guys were on, what I was saying is that you go and you find this problem and you try looking it up on the internet and you get a million different opinions. And you don't really know who the opinion is from. Because an opinion from somebody who's been at something for a while, in my opinion, is very different. Again, in my opinion, it's very different than somebody who's just a noob and it's their first crack at it. You know? Because if nothing else, people that have been out for a while understand that results take some time. It's not like, oh, it wasn't done in 5 seconds. I must be doing something wrong. No, it doesn't work that way. Slosh this around. Just adds a little bit of modulation. Yes, I didn't glue the 50 calibers down on this one. I feel like I didn't need to. They're on there well enough. I'm going to leave them alone unless I have to. Glue them down. There's the filth modulation. That term didn't exist in 1/35th scale modeling back in the early 90s when I was doing it. There was no modulation. You need pin washes and stuff like that, but pastels. Pastels are what we used to do. We'd buy some pastels and you'd paint them on for that kind of stuff, but I'm not a fan of having super ultra realistic looking vehicles that look better than the real one. I think the vehicles need to have the same look that your infantry does. So if your infantry isn't super realistic, then your vehicles will look out of place if they are, in my opinion. That's, the look I'm trying to achieve. Better make it later in the evening. Surprised you didn't pick up a reserved copy of Face of Battle Rules. I didn't. No. Once we play games, I've done a series of games. In this case, started a Stalingrad campaign. Really good system, although abstract. It's very narrative. Yeah. They got 3 now, right? They got the desert. They got the Normandy. The thing that throws me off of the Normandy one, they got it on the cover. They got several American dudes on there, and one of them is a African American black guy, whatever you call it. Which is, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the units in World War II were segregated by the American. I don't know if the British did the same thing as well, though they had what, white officers and Indian units and stuff like that, but. It just almost throws me off like they're trying to cater to something. It just wasn't realistic. It's a shame that's how it was, but it was, like I was playing World of Tanks one time, and I had a tank destroyer crew, and I specifically, you can have different races. No, you can have white guys or black guys in there. There's no other races other than that represented in your little profiles on World of Tanks, and I made a tank destroyer unit that was all black guys. Because that's how they were. They were segregated, unfortunately. And that was just a sign of the times. And then Eric Hartman quote is, the U.S. can't say shit about the Germans because they had segregated units. Well, we didn't send people to I shouldn't say we, my people weren't on this continent yet, but the U.S. did not send people to concentration camps. Kill them for no fucking reason. Sorry, pal. False equivalency. Still doesn't make one thing good, but... Paint time, Mr. Justin. No, it's sleep time. Yeah, well, in my case, it's stop time. Because I accomplished a goal that... Even though it was 40 minutes late. I had fun talking to you guys. I really appreciate you guys coming online. It was looking pretty, drab. What's that word? Presentism. We're going to have to remember that. I'll have to look up the definition and see if that's what it is. Newfangled crappery. Patton said it best when he said he didn't give a shit about the color of your skin, your religion, as long as you follow orders and fight your damn hardest. There you go. Patton had an M20 as a command car. I didn't know that. Because when I think of Patton, I think of his 3/4 ton car, right? His 3/4 ton thing with the little flags and stuff like that. Only thing I don't like about Patton's was those silly ass pistols that he had. He had those silly ass 6-shooters. And he didn't have a very good commanding voice, but he was an ass kicker. There's no doubt about it. Okay, folks, this is where we're at. This is where we're going to pick up off of. We'll let these dry. We're going to add another coat of this, of the U.S. Olive Drab, and I think I'm going to do the Stewarts next. So the Shermans can wait. I've got lots of Shermans done. 6, 7, something like that. How many is it? 6 or 7? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 of them. But can't wait to get more. He was Olympic marksman with those 6 shooters. Well, he's better at them than me. Okay, folks. Thanks for stopping by. We'll catch you guys on the next one. Enjoy your Sunday, and maybe we'll see you on later.